How about now?
Yep, now I can hear you.
Do we need to start over?
I didn't know if the meeting had started. I texted you a couple minutes ago. I couldn't hear anything.
Me neither.
Then I saw the pages scrolling, and I'm like, oh, shoot, I think you must have started.
No members were present for the public forum. Member Cash, Member Wyse made a motion to move into executive session. All those in favor, please state your name and raise your hand. So Wyse.
Radford.
Anthony.
Chatter.
Chase.
So we will move into executive session at 5:35 p.m. So just follow the instructions that you were emailed earlier, and we'll move to the back.
Okay.
will reconvene out of executive session at 6:16 p.m. We'll move on to the next agenda item to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to a business or prospect, project SJ. There's no action taken on Project Barn. So first step is to open a public hearing on Project SJ. So hold a public hearing, discuss, consider, and act upon Resolution 21-15 declaring Project SJ a project, and approve funding for an economic development incentive and performance agreement for Project SJ in an amount not to exceed $13,750 to promote new or expanded business development in compliance with Section 505.158 of the Texas Government Code. There's nobody here at Town Hall present. Is anybody online? Nobody is online, so we will close the public hearing. Any other discussion items on this, or can we get a motion to approve resolution number 21-15?
This is Member Bradford. I make a motion to approve resolution 21-15 as presented.
Motion made by Member Bradford.
Member Chase, I second that motion.
Seconded by Member Chase. All those in favor, please state your name. Wyse.
Bradford.
Anthony.
Chase.
Motion passes unanimously. Member Shatter had to drop off, but we still have a quorum. So we'll move on to the next agenda item, discuss, consider, and approve the minutes from the March 9, 2021 board meeting. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to read those. Any questions or changes?
I read them. I don't have any questions. I can make a motion if there's no questions.
Okay. Motion made by Member Bradford.
I second.
I think K. Paul beat you. Seconded by Member Cash. All those in favor, please state your name. Wyse.
Anthony.
Chase.
Motion passes unanimously. Move on to the next agenda item, which is the March 2021 financial reporting and related items, and hand it over to Member Bradford.
So we have our March financials prepared by staff. Our sales tax revenue for the month of March was $66,853.31. Our expenses for the month were $34,990.76. Those expenses did include some payments towards some projects, such as the batting cage work at Jobson Park, looks like some repairs on a canopy at Town Center Park, as well as some additional payments for professional services and planning that we had already budgeted for. So our ending fund balance as of 3/31 is $3,115,692. And when you look at the sales tax comparison graph, and again, we're looking at the, due to the 2-month lag, we're looking at January. It does look like our January sales tax for this current fiscal year does appear to be higher than previous years for the same period. So that's good. And no changes to our current incentive listing. I'm sure staff will update that with the latest approval that we just made in this meeting for our next meeting. So I didn't have any questions for staff. And I don't have any other comments, so I'll turn it back over to the group for any questions.
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Do you want me to make a motion to approve? Is everybody good with that?
Sounds good to me.
All right, I make a motion to approve the financial statements for March 2021.
Motion made by member Anthony,
Chase will second the motion.
seconded by member Chase. All those in favor? Wise,
Bradford.
Anthony,
Chase.
motion passes unanimously. So we'll move on to the next item, discuss updates on the following projects. Start off with Glacier.
Okay, so can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So for the Glacier property, town management held a meeting with the construction manager at risk team and the architect for the fire station and the barn projects. Charles, Susan, do y'all have anything additional to add to that?
I think, we conveyed to them the maximum budget that was discussed in the joint meeting, and we executed the agreements with them that contain that budget. And I know that they're actively working on trying to come to a guaranteed maximum price, which will be the next contract that we sign with them. One of the interesting things when we did our kickoff meeting was that the construction manager at risk is Byrne is the name of the company, and the CEO of that company actually had just on their family property put up some pretty extensive barn projects. So he had some recent experience with that and working with both I guess we called them kits and not with kits. So, I mean, I was excited to hear that he had, relevant recent experience with that. So we're off and running. We'll keep you posted at each meeting on the status, and we'll bring back to you, any options that they give us that bear consideration. Okay, any questions?
Thank you.
I'm good.
Next is Jobson.
Can everyone hear me?
Can.
We finished our batting cage project at Jobson last week. It began getting used over the weekend. The shades are being installed this week and next week over the dugout. That's the high school project where the two young baseball players, they're working into their baseball schedule now that games have begun. We've started our herbicide application at all of our parks, and those applications have been completed. Here's some pictures of the guys fighting the wind with the net. But they did a great job getting it up. And we've added some equipment inside the batting cage L screen and some mats to hit it and throw off of so that turf lasts as long as possible. Any questions about Jobson?
So are those just supported with just the U brackets, or there's cross beams in there or something?
Yeah, no, sir. That's all that's supported with. It's like a sock that fits down over the top of them, and it's a pretty standard batting cage. There's other kinds with wires and cables, but this is usually the easiest to repair if something happens.
Neat.
Any other questions?
I got last thing is there signage out there regarding cleats and use of the mats?
Yeah, we're having those made.
Okay.
And cleats won't be a problem as long as they're plastic or rubber, just
Right.
no metal spikes.
Right. I just, like at the school, they have the sign for no metal spikes.
Right, yes, sir.
Kids are using them if they're over 13. So,
Oh, yeah.
cool. So next is Vineyard.
At Vineyard Park, We finished painting all of the new boundaries on the new layout. This layout gives us more practice locations for separate ages. They're all painted. We'll probably need to paint them once every 2 weeks in order to keep the lines fresh. This helps also with the high traffic areas. Every season, spring, fall, the soccer association and I will sit down and lay out how to lay it out over again, and that way we rotate the high traffic areas every year and give the grass a chance to stay healthy. We put in 18 3-gallon red tip where we repaired that fence where it was being bent by the adults that were out there playing. And we put our herbicide application on that park as well. And here's the layout of the fields that we've got all painted.
Yeah, I stopped by this weekend. It looked really nice, and the petunias look nice. And I guess that's a fairly new fence they put up.
Yes, sir. Well, what we did is we took down the current fence when it was bent, and Public Works, the guys re-welded and re-straightened and then painted the whole thing, and then we reinstalled it for her.
Yeah, looks nice.
Nice.
So once those start to grow and bloom, that's going to look really good.
Next is Samuel Farms.
We sat and had a meeting with the mayor, the town manager, and a cricket group to explore partnership on usage opportunities at Samuel Farm Properties, the cost for a multi-youth athletic field. We're looking at, now this is just the field, the playing area, dirt work, removal of the current vegetation, an irrigation system, and new sod, $425,000. And that's the same sod that we have at Jobson and Vineyard, same Tipway 419.
What kind of layout and how big of a space is that covering?
Well, that's covering a 5-acre space. That way that we can use it for more than just one sport. If we do it this way, we can conquer practice and game areas for football, soccer, cricket, lacrosse, and any other sport that doesn't require a backstop. We'll get portable goals, field goals, and be able to set that up for practice and games if necessary. There's also more in the planning that's beyond that cost, and MHS is working on that to do an entire layout of that facility. And then, of course, we have to meet with Dallas Parks and Recreation Department, before we can move forward.
Yeah, well, one of the comments I have is, we've been on hold with Samuel Farms because of the relationship, and any money we spend over there, we could potentially lose. So it's, we've had thoughts of lots of things that can be done over there over the years. So I'm excited to see getting actual cost put to the land use that can be done over there. But one question I have is the cricket group. Is this a Sunnyvale organization or not? And I like the idea that it's multifunctional. So if we're able to move forward, that the Sunnyvale organizations will be able to use it outside of just cricket.
Yes, sir. The gentlemen that we met with are from Sunnyvale. Now, I'm not familiar with what league they're associated with.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get that far. We didn't really discuss usage fees or rental times or game schedules or tournament schedules. We just wanted to show them what it would take for them to have an actual cricket field. The biggest cost is that what they're looking at and what we're running into is the other cities that provide the league that they play in a place to play is because they've already had an established soccer field, right, or an established complex, whereas we don't have that area. So we're starting from ground zero, and they've basically inherited, a section of an already established complex in other cities. So that's why the cost is basically what it is to get going.
And so that doesn't include any parking or restroom or anything. That's just
No, sir.
straight up field prep and
Yes, sir.
irrigation.
And JD, didn't you have costs for those other
Yes, ma'am.
items? as
I
well?
have all those costs. Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to go ahead and share those?
Sure. If we do a prefab restroom, we're looking, and depends on which one we chose, and we went with the two most modest that we presented. 71,000, and that's with foundation prep, plumbing, everything. They come in and hook it up, and there it is. And that serves 2 people at once on 2 separate sides. The parking lot, you're looking at around 165,000, and we used a concrete calculator. Now that'll go up or down depending upon if we go asphalt, if we go crushed granite, depending on the material that we use. That's including the curbs, and it does not include sidewalk structures, which would all have to be rather large, ADA. We're looking at around 20,000 for 2 sets of bleachers with a concrete pad, or, if we just decide to go with one that holds 20 people and they can bring their own seating. And then if we decide that the restroom is a little out of bounds to begin with, then we're looking at about $4,900 a year in order to have porta potties, 1 standard and 1 handicap.
Larger one.
Yes, sir. And that's serviced once a week.
So these numbers would be relevant as well if it was at Jobson.
Yes, sir. The only difference is, they would be, because the section that we would have to put that would be large enough for a cricket.
Would be the
Or-
undeveloped
Yes, sir.
section. Right.
Yes, sir.
And is there any cost savings, or does it just not make sense if you look at seeding it and working it for a year over sod?
Well, I mean, you can,
You're the expert. I'm not. I'm just asking.
if we seed it, the quicker we'll be able to use it, and the better guarantee we'll have if we sod it, the quicker we'll be able to use it, and the better guarantee that we have that it'll last. With seed, sometimes you never know what you're going to get in the seed. Some seeds they just don't come through, and you can have an entire section that didn't take, and you won't know that until all the other grass comes up. With the sod, at least we can see it when it's there and start working it immediately with top dressing, fertilizer, extra water, and catch it before it has any trouble. And it'd be very difficult to keep people off the seed,
Yeah, I guess that's true.
without us having fencing. And
So with sod, you can say stay off for 2 months or whatever
we
it is.
put a
But
big
with
sign out
seed,
there.
you can't say you can't touch it for the next year.
where they can at least see it. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
that makes sense.
And Burton has a lot more knowledge about Tupelo than I do.
5 acres versus some of these yards is a little different.
Yes, sir.
Another benefit to sodding it is once someone goes out there with their laser level and contours it so it drains properly, once you put that sod on top, then your contours don't wash away if we get a big rain.
I don't have first-hand experience right now. Then.
We'll end up with a ditch with beautiful grass, and on top of the playing surface, we won't have any.
I think it's exciting. It's neat to see cost put forward with it.
A lot of things that we discussed that we didn't put together a cost plan. Disc golf, the butterfly habitat, a bird watching area, sand volleyball, recreational activity area like for horseshoes, washers, cornhole.
So much of that still revolves around
And the trail.
whatever updated agreement we end up with Dallas and Mesquite, right? So
Yes, sir. You know, you're looking at, including in a facility like this, we'd have playgrounds. You know, it wouldn't just be a place to play athletics. We kind of want to form it the opposite. We want it to be a public park, which also has athletics, not an athletic facility, which might have a swing set.
So Burton, the way I know that we left it in the meeting with the mayor was that we were going to get a cost to have MHS do a plan that we would present to the 4B and then take to Dallas Parks and Rec. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, I visited with Hunter. There's several properties that they're going to include in the master plan, that high level, and then yeah, we'll have to work with him, try to incorporate all these different things that we discussed or the things that we've talked about, and then bring that back to everybody.
Separate from this particular part of Samuel Farms, I mean, have you had any more meetings with them over updating that
No,
agreement that Sunnyvale has with the overall group?
we haven't had meetings with them specifically. I did visit with a person that works for them that's working on a master plan for the southern portion, the actual farm. But at this point in time, they have no, at least talking to him, there's no plan to plan out what's going on at Samuel Farm North or New Hope. He seemed very much respectful that we were working on some things and that we were also working with them. He was able to get, in his words, he was able to get a complete picture of kind of where everybody's at right now.
Hey, guys. I think we're having a little trouble hearing you. Are y'all still talking?
Can you hear me, JD?
Yeah, it just it's like when someone starts talking, we can hear it, and then it just kind of trails off, like
Yeah,
they're
like
walking away from the microphone.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me, like he was slowly backing away.
Yeah. I was just going to make a quick, I don't know what y'all were saying right there then. I was just going to make a quick comment on the sod versus seed that y'all were talking about earlier. When we built our house 13 years ago, we were going to save money by seeding the back part of the yard. And we're still trying to grow grass 13 years later with 3 rounds of seed that we've tried over the years. So sod is definitely worth it, in my opinion.
And I assume this is all speculative at this point. And I guess it makes me wonder, after we get more of a final report from MHS about the Parks Master Plan, will we have a discussion specifically about what we would like to see as far as land use for those, both the Samuel Parks and Sunnyvale? Because I'm not sure. I mean, for me personally, I didn't feel like I heard that from the information we got back from the surveys that was necessarily the direction the town wanted to go on the whole, is using it for sports fields and things. But
Yeah, and then the other thing, what we were talking about, maybe you didn't hear it, was the update on the work we're trying to do with Dallas and Mesquite to make sure we're able to do stuff and not lose it. So
right, that too.
Where it goes out a lot firmer for Sunnyvale, so we can move forward and do things with that property, whatever it ends up being.
Well, it's going to be a phased approach regardless, you know. Right. I think, we would start with some less permanent structures to begin with until we get a level of comfort probably would be my guess.
I guess barring any other questions or comments on Samuel Farms?
I just want to comment to both Nikki's comment and to Sarah's comment that yes, that's exactly what the plan is that we would get some kind of design and ideas back for y'all to approve, and then go to the city of Dallas to, with any ideas that we decide we're willing to pursue, and get their approval, and also address the issue with the lease and the termination period of time. So I don't, you guys may have said that in the chambers, but us who are remote didn't hear all of that. So I just wanted to reiterate it.
Thank you. And then last question I have is where it says explore partnership opportunities. So what was the Cricket Group offering as a partner?
Well, they discussed paying for the cricket pitch, which is the concrete slab that runs in the middle with the turf. We discussed partnerships with them helping reach out to businesses like Academy or Dick's Sporting Goods in order to help offset some of the costs. I worked with them at my prior job. And we discussed user fees. On a facility like that, if you're hosting other cities would need to pay in order to use it.
But that is positive as well. It's nice to hear somebody asking for something and willing to participate in the development and costs. So neat. So then we'll move on to the next item, which is, yes. Sorry.
Are there any grant monies available for stuff like this?
There are for athletic facilities and parks in general, but I don't know.
So I've done a little investigating on this. What makes it complicated is the fact that we lease the property from the city of Dallas. So there are park development grants through Parks and Wildlife. In this situation, though, because they own the property, they would have to be, the grant request would have to be initiated by them. It's a similar thing that we've run into with the Rails to Trails project.
So it can be done. It just requires extra steps. Good question. So next is Rails to Trails, and we're really close. I guess I'll let Susan comment if any updates have come in the last couple of days. So basically,
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So we did receive the preliminary final documents, and Lyle's going over, has reviewed those and has some questions. So we're having a meeting tomorrow morning at 8:45 to review those and then communicate back with Luminant. So we're just trying to get through the final documents at this point.
great. So once that's complete, the next step is scheduling a close. So again, we're really close. Next is Parks Master Plan.
So we have received a draft of the plan. I would say it's the first six chapters. Going through any kind of edits, things that we know, in some cases I looked at the draft, there's some places where there's some placeholders that are in there.
Hey, Burton, we're having trouble hearing you again. Sorry.
How about now?
That's good.
So we've received the draft, a part of the draft, probably about 6 chapters. There's some places in the document that where they've put in some placeholders. We're going to go through there, find things that we know are glaringly wrong, and then work with them for those edits. Along with that, the draft piece that we don't have they're going to recommend amenities at each facility, any kind of programming, and then cost estimates that would be based on 2021 construction cost. And then the goal is to have you all a draft next month to take a look at. It's somewhat it's interesting, the 2021 construction costs. I actually participated in a webinar today, and they were talking about building costs. And so as we get ready to when we think about those things, I saw a statistic that said that the cost of lumber for a single family home has increased about $14,000 per home. So I've asked for them to put those estimates in there based on, really try to keep those numbers as we move closer and closer to implementing this plan later on this year, that we get the most current data. Any additional questions on that?
Yeah, I understand the construction costs as well. And one of the key things they're saying now is that many builders, and Cape Hall may be able to attest, are switching to steel and concrete because it's now become an equivalent cost of wood frame. So, which, for our projects would probably be metal and concrete anyways,
Well, even the plumbers that were at my house today were talking about the cost just skyrocketing just on some basic piping that they were using to make some repairs on something at our house. Everything is just skyrocketing, so that's not surprising at all.
I look forward to seeing the draft that they're willing to share. So next is the EDC website.
Tina, do you want to say anything about that, or do you want me to?
So where we left off, we had a meeting in Burton, Romeo, it was a month ago, maybe, or a few weeks ago, and went over some of the things that we saw in other towns' websites that we thought were good design-wise, content-wise, and pointed out some differences in their sites and ours. In particular, I think we all agreed we really liked the Grapevine EDC site and just how they had their layout and the different design elements on that. The next step, we were going to go through the Sunnyvale EDC website and just point out specific items that really needed to be addressed first, whether it was layout or different areas of the website that were hard to maneuver, content issues. We had a call scheduled to go over those, but that needed to be rescheduled. So I think we've got something the week of the 22nd, I believe, to go over those items.
Yeah, our next meeting scheduled for the 19th, and then the goal would be to come back with you to the board next month for a recommendation on several different things to move forward, to start making the updates, the content. And is there any additional questions on that?
Looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with.
Next is commercial development. So seeing a lot of dirt moving in various places.
Yeah, so the dirt work's underway for Chick-fil-A. That started last Friday. The Tulo's Office Park and Burger King have submitted their plans for review. Terry and the Chamber of Commerce, they had a ribbon cutting over at Sunnyvale Park Square last week, and Derek shared that by this summer, there'll be 19 businesses within that building. And construction is ongoing for the Planters Road development, Chiralis Plaza, and Whataburger.
Any update on what's going into the big development there west of Whataburger?
Are you talking about the Planters Road development?
Right.
No, that the developer has said in the past that once they do have some people that are interested, but once they start going vertical and they start their marketing, they'll have a better idea of what kind of tenants are interested. They still, they haven't shared that yet. So,
Okay.
I guess I've got a similar question on the Chiralis Plaza. Is that kind of in the same situation? Not sure what businesses are looking to locate there yet.
yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff going on over there. There's just a lot of development going on in general.
You had mentioned you'd had a lot of calls lately on land in Sunnyvale, so I guess that's good.
That's a good thing.
And next is the downtown committee. After we go through dirt work pictures.
So this last month, member Chase had asked about the downtown. So I know that Charles, if you're on, you want to jump in and add anything. Otherwise, I'll just share this. But there's going to be several public input meetings coming up, May the 6th, the 27th, and June the 17th. We're still working out all the details on those, but at this point, it's looking like a small group, open house, town hall format where people can visit and provide input. And then additionally, there will likely be a survey that can be sent out for people that don't feel comfortable meeting in person yet. So.
What kind of input are you looking to collect at those meetings? Are you looking for like layout of the area, business content? You know, do you have an idea of what people are going to be asked to comment on?
Yeah, so this is Charles. So the first meeting will really just be about high level. What do we mean by a downtown? What kind of developments, do you like? Are you attracted to? Very high level, just ways to get the conversation started so that we kind of know generally what direction we're headed in. Then the staff and the consultant will kind of take that and start to kind of drill down on, okay, what's our goal? What's our vision? And then bring that back for additional input at the second meeting. And then by the last meeting, that's when we're getting into, well, here's a high level kind of conceptual layout. What do you think of this? What kind of building materials and aesthetics are we going for? So it starts out very high level, very conceptual, and then kind of goes down deeper into a vision as we work through the process.
So potentially you could have different people attending these 3 different meetings and essentially commenting on different parts of the process. So it's not going to be, I guess I just want to make sure that when the communication goes out, that people don't think it's the same meeting happening 3 times and they can just choose from one or the other.
Right.
Hopefully they'll get the message that it's going to be sort of a progressive kind of discussion. I don't know.
That's the plan.
Okay.
We finalized these dates last week, so we're working on a communication plan for getting the public aware of the meetings. And yes, we are going to do everything we can to encourage people to attend all 3 sessions because they will build up on each other.
Awesome.
So a question as well, I mean, in that same line, I was thinking it was probably just 3 separate meetings doing the same thing. So thanks for clarifying that it's building towards an end. And then on the survey, you know, the group that we hired to do the Parks Master Plan, that survey that they did was really good. I mean, is there something like that we can just hire them or somebody to do it?
The survey would be done by the same consultant that we've hired to facilitate the downtown process. So we'd likely use SurveyMonkey or some other similar online survey tool. And the goal is to ask as similar of questions as possible that we're asking in the in-person sessions, so that we get similar feedback. Again, that's just meant to be an alternative for people that aren't quite comfortable because of COVID getting out and coming to a public meeting yet. But, you know, if we ask a question of people that attend of, what is, in one word, describe what, Sunnyvale's downtown means to you, we could ask that in person and have people kind of write it on a whiteboard or something like that. We can ask that on the online survey as well. Or if we have a poster board with, a bunch of different building types with different building materials and aesthetics that, we have people put a dot on in person, we can, show those online and have people put a checkbox by the one they like on the online survey. So it really is getting at the same information, just providing people multiple opportunities or options, for providing that feedback.
Yeah, because it's not just COVID on why people won't go. It's just timing and convenience.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions or? It's exciting to see it moving forward. So next is town beautification.
So we've worked with the consultant. We've got a couple of proposals. One of the options is to do the monument signage as is already in place, and then option B would be for additional monument signage and landscaping. Interesting, since the original monuments went in, the UDO, the Unified Development Ordinance, has been changed. It's added language that specifies how gateway monument signage is supposed to be constructed, and along with that, there's some additional cost and planning that would need to be involved. We've also received the final details on the light poles for Collins Road, and the contractor has all the information they need to pour the foundations for those. And I've included a picture of what those look like. The masts for the banners, I know this picture, they look small, but they're actually 4 foot. Each side is a 4 foot mast.
Yeah, because it shows the base being 2 foot 2 inches and it looks wider than each flag. So it's just a bad picture, I guess.
Are there any additional questions about that? I know that one of the next items, we're going to talk more detail about the monument signage.
Well, in town beautification, we're still trying to move forward with additional holiday decorations and things like that. And it seems strange to talk about it in March, but if we're going to do anything for 2021, we need to. So, obviously we wanted to wait until Collins Road's done before we put much along Collins, but we did the tree last year, the new tree, and a couple of other things, but I can't remember if we had anything planned to add this year or if we're just waiting until Collins is done. Waiting.
When is Collins done, by the way?
That is town beautification.
The plan is to be done sometime this summer.
So sometime this summer. And then we're doing the Sunny Fest this year. So I guess banners and things like that may or may not fall in the town beautification, but landscaping along Collins, is all of that part of the major project, or we're 4B? We've been asking about what we can do in the middle of the circle and along Collins, other things that we can pitch in to help from a town beautification standpoint. So.
Right. And those poles have power in them, right? I know I ask every time.
They do.
And how many of them are there? Do you know?
I don't know right offhand how many there are. I can find out for you.
I think that if it works out for this year, it would be nice to have something on those poles for holiday decorations. I mean, that's where this whole conversation started a long, long time ago. So if we could find out how many there are, maybe we could do some investigating to see what the options would be to decorate the poles for the holidays.
I think that's a great idea, Member Anthony. And we did make sure that the poles had the brackets for the flags on them. And I actually asked about the lower one as well, just to make sure, that they stay in place. But we can do some research on decorations. But I do think we have, I know Charles and I and Lyle have started to have some conversation about what's going to go in the middle of the circle, the roundabout, because there is concern about making sure that whatever we do there really leaves good visibility, because if you can't see across it, it's very hard to keep it safe. So we've started looking at some options, and I think Burton will probably go over some of that with you when we talk about the monument signs.
I liked the comment about public art regarding the horses. So something in the middle of the circle that's considered public art that you can actually still visibly see through or around, it would be neat.
Yeah, I like the idea of more art type installations in the town. I think that really adds.
That's what we were discussing, was maybe, something to do with a horse, but maybe rearing up. And the only reason we say that is because it would minimize the intrusion on the visibility across the roundabout. But I mean, it's just one idea. We can think of others, but we liked, in the town strategic plan, there's a whole section on kind of reinforcing our rural character. And so I think that might be a really good way to do that if we can do it safely out there. So.
Neat. So next month we'll follow up with something on holiday decorations along the utilizing the poles. Like, again, we started that conversation multiple years ago. So, and that may be the budget item for this year for our holiday upgrades.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much we can put in front of town hall,
Right.
Well, and again, we can always put the chipmunk in the middle of the roundabout until we figure out a permanent solution. I'm still voting for that.
The cardinal.
Yeah, the chipmunk and the cardinal.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that too.
They're lurking behind the.
They're hiding behind the fence like they're in jail. I think we should get them out.
And next is discuss and consider placement and design of gateway signage.
So this is just a crude map of the locations that we used when talking to the consultant. This is our current signage that we had on Collins Road, just north of 80 there. And you can see it's got the planter in front.
I noticed the one we have over on Town East, the plants have grown up over the part that says Town of Sunnyvale.
Yeah, we do go out occasionally and trim those back.
Right. Just for future reference, we have to be careful about what we plant in it, or it's got to be slightly taller.
That's real 90s looking, I gotta say.
So,
Well, what about the UDO is going to make that extremely different? Or do you have that coming up in a later slide?
It's coming up.
Okay.
This is the existing. And that location is also over there on Town East Boulevard. So these were the proposed locations that came back from the consultant. These were the ones that you all had suggested that we add, which is on the south end of Collins, Barnes Bridge and Collins, North Collins, Beltline and Tripp, and Cyene and Clay Mathis Road. So here is the Unified Development Ordinance, the UDO. This is the what it calls for. Try to move this around a little bit where y'all can see. So you can see it's quite extensive compared to the other signage. Those locations.
Can you go back one real quick?
Prairie style inspired tower? Never heard of such a thing. Who came up with this?
The UDO.
So this is Charles again. That was kind of part of the discussion that we'll get into tonight. This is in the UDO, but current staff has no idea of kind of how this came to be or what emotional attachment there may be to this concept. So because it's in the UDO, because it's been adopted by the town, we wanted to include it as an option. But there's also nothing sacred about the UDO. If that's what, council wants to do, we can always take it out, amend it, whatever. So this is in here to be part of the conversation as kind of an option B. If the other signs that Burton just showed were kind of option A, another option could be kind of start over with a new design that we understand what it means on like a prairie style inspired tower.
Yeah, the UDO, going back to that, I mean, it's an extremely long document. We worked on it, and I say we because I was involved in it along with many other citizens in addition to the town council and planning staff and everything else. And people kept saying it had to be perfect before it was passed, and it still wouldn't be passed if it was perfect. So, this is one of those areas that probably didn't get a lot of scrutiny. And as far as I know, none of the neighborhoods have these prairie style inspired towers with metal accents yet. So unless somebody's been forced to do that by the UDO, it probably needs to be modified.
Yeah, I don't see anything else in the town that seems prairie inspired. So that does seem kind of incongruous with the rest of the way the town looks. I mean, I think this looks nice and I like the landscaping around it. Yeah, but I don't understand the prairie.
I mean,
So
it looks
to a
good.
new design, just not necessarily that one.
Yeah, where the towers are coming in, it looks nice.
And then we don't want something that's going to be so specifically styled to something like prairie. If we put it at 80 and Collins and then have it clash with whatever downtown development ends up looking like. So that's something to think about too. What are these individual areas, like the area around Kearney's? What might they look like? Are they going to have different feels to them? And do we want the signs to match each other or match the area they're in?
Good thought. Burton, you want me to keep going or you want to pick back up?
Oh, I was just going to say these were in option B. These were the locations. You can see the landscape enhancements along with the monument signage. This is from the UDO. This would be more of your entryway signage.
That's a little bit easier to follow. I was having trouble following the other picture. That looks nice. I'm just wondering who came up with the idea.
For me, when I look at that tower, it just makes me look at almost like every entry in Frisco and Plano and North Dallas. So I don't.
Yeah, it's definitely not unique to Sunnyvale, that's for sure.
Doesn't make me think of Prairie. It makes me think of North Dallas, Plano, Frisco.
I agree.
Sprawl. HOA.
I don't know. There's a home style that's really prevalent in some of the older parts of Memphis that's prairie style, and that's what it makes me think of. But I don't see those houses around here. I mean, I like the curved sign and the landscaping. I just think the tower doesn't really match us, even though it's nice looking.
Oh, I agree.
So these were the locations in option B. You can see that one there lined up with Jobson out on 80, and then in the median there near Lawson and 80.
Is there anything, I mean, between the highway and the access road, seems like, I'm just curious, it seems like it's liability if you put up something that somebody goes off the road and runs into and injures themselves. So.
Or we have to replace the sign and constantly get it repaired. That looks like a disaster to me. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's some potential issues with putting them in this location. Again, this is just where the UDO called for them to go, so we wanted to put them in there as part of the conversation. But and this is also TxDOT right away. So if we were going to put them there, we'd also have to get TxDOT approval, which would be a process in and of itself. So yeah, there's definitely some challenges with these locations.
So, with all that being said, what was that?
It's a new standard, option 3 on this chart.
Yep, option 3.
Okay. Does everybody feel that way?
Yes.
I make a motion. No, I'm kidding.
Those look really nice. I just think, like everybody said, we can tweak that tower to be something a little more Sunnyvale. The overall concept and change was nice, but it doesn't really fit with what we got going on.
Do we know who designed them?
I mean, my guess is it was the same group that did our UDO, which is Friesen Nichols, but I don't know for that for a fact. I mean, it could have been a separate process that they just plugged into the UDO, or it could have been something that they did as part of their development of the UDO. Again, not being here and not having any of the staff that was here when the UDO was developed, we just don't know the history of how that came to be.
And this is Susan. I just want to add that, in staff's discussion, when we were looking at these for the kind of first time as a group, I think we all felt exactly what you all were saying. To us, it almost looked a little pagoda-ish. It just didn't seem to reflect the character of the community. And again, we have this whole strategy about reinforcing our rural character, and we have so few opportunities to really do that this really could be an opportunity to try to capture something that reflects the rural character. So we felt like this is really a good opportunity to take another look at this.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, and Susan, you may have alluded to this already when we were talking about the roundabout, but coordinating the roundabout, whatever we do in the roundabout with whatever we do to the monument signage, I think is going to be key.
Yeah, absolutely. And, whatever that look is, of course, because we're so focused on the barn right now, and the reason we're focused on the barn and the horses is because it is one of our only big strategies to keep the rural character. So it does come to mind of how do all of those things work together, the roundabout, the lighting, going down Collins, these gateway signages. I mean, these are all things that I think we should coordinate to reinforce that rural character. So it's a really big opportunity, and I just want to make sure that we give good thought to how can we capture something that really reflects what everyone thinks of when they think of Sunnyvale.
I agree. And I think that we tend to not think of all these things as a package. Just looking at the light poles, for instance, like we've got these entry signage proposed in the UDO that are prairie style. And then we have light poles that are going in on Collins that are definitely not prairie style. And those things will be very close to each other. And all of these things, you know, from a marketing perspective, add up to how we are positioning ourselves to the people that come into the town, whether we realize it or not. They're all part of how we look, and it creates a message to people who come in, and we can try to control that as best as possible, and make it more of what we want, and something instead of something that each element is nice, but it seems haphazard right now.
And I think that same opportunity exists with whatever we do with the downtown area, you know, whether there are design guidelines or just, you know, elements that we put or that we require others to put. I think all of that could really, one decision should kind of be setting the path for the rest of those decisions. So.
Well, I think it could impact the signage, the gateway signage, the roundabout, the barn, downtown, as you mentioned, and rails to trails. There'll be some markers along rails to trails that, you know, could be tied in at some point in the future. And so it's almost like we need some type of branding package, with a few different, you know, options for smaller markers versus bigger markers up to the gateway signage. I'm wondering if, you know, and obviously we probably need a professional to help us with this, but would it be worth it to reach out to the community to see, because I know we have some local artists in Sunnyvale, and we have students, talented students who have graduated from Sunnyvale with art experience. If there's anyone who would be willing to do some sketching or something, just to throw some ideas down on paper, people who have a stake in Sunnyvale, maybe just a thought to reach out to the community.
And I think we'll get good information too from the downtown meetings if we have good attendance. Once we get to the point where we're presenting look boards or mood boards and they're giving their feedback on them, we'll get some idea from the residents about what they think about what the look of Sunnyvale should be. And we can take that and compare it with what we're already doing at the Glacier property. That might give us at least some idea of a direction to go in. But I do think it's worthwhile to think about. I don't know if we're going to find someone in town. You know, it's not just a person who's artistic that would come up with this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. It might be worth looking into a company that could come up with a branding or positioning package for us that would apply to all the parts of town.
And Susan brought up the horses and, you know, other comments. Burton mentioned windmills, and, you know, those are things that go along with rural, but I agree with you, you know, it's kind of tying it all together. And to me, when you think about downtown, if you're trying to think of rural along with the street lights that are going up, it's almost like, you know, looking back at old black and white photos of Richardson, McKinney, you know, Rockwall, you know, what did they look like in 1930? You know, and a lot of that can be duplicated today, and it looks rural today when back then it was a bustling little town that was growing, you know, so it's the same concept. And freezing nickels with direction can probably do it as well, you know. Finding the right group probably a good idea.
Isn't there like a reference to like rural chic or something like that? I mean, because I don't think we want to go rural like where I grew up, rural, where people have just random stuff sitting out in their yard and horseshoes on their mailboxes and stuff. You know, I don't think that's the look we're going for.
So just to finish this up, we've got y'all's feedback on the location, the design, and then we would just recommend a joint meeting in the future with town council to kind of flesh everything out and get on the same page and then pick the best path forward. Any other questions about the gateway signage?
We'll move on to discuss future agenda items and events. And one event is we are doing Sunny Fest this year, and the town's planning on it. So staff is already working on it. Any other events between now and then that
I don't know of any. Do we have a date for Sunny Fest yet?
Burton, you got that date?
Yeah, it's July the 2nd, Friday, July the 2nd. Charles, is it okay to discuss Member Cash's question?
I didn't hear it.
Southeast corner of Beltline and Town East.
I can speak to it at a high level. There has been a zoning request that has been submitted for a development for that area that includes the vacant land all the way down through the golf course. We're still working through the details, but it would be kind of a mixed use development that'd have potentially some commercial areas, potentially some residential, and also potentially some private athletic facilities like ball fields, things like that. But again, it's kind of in its infancy. We're still talking through standards, things like that. But that'll be working its way through the zoning process in the next few months.
Thank you. Any other future agenda items or events anybody wants to discuss or bring up for the future? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Motion made by Member Cash,
Second.
seconded by Member Bradford, I believe.
Yeah.
All those in favor, please state your name. Wyse.
Bradford.
Anthony,
Thanks.
We adjourn at 7:24 p.m.
Hey, y'all go eat at Chipotle on Highway 80 to support our choir tonight. Thanks.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.